she's big piece of guy. Everything that Uncle John knows, baby.
The other day, I went up to my girlfriend. I said, you know, I'd like a little pussy. She said, me too. Mine's as big as a house.
Yeah. Well,
You see, she wanted a littler one because hers was as
He saw Mary come in and he ducked back in the alley.
big as a house.
Get that stinking shit out of my face.
Bunch of slap-jawed around here. This stuff will make you a goddamn sexual Tyrannosaurus. Just like me.
Yeah, strap this on your sore-ass plane.
Hello and welcome to Predator Minute, the podcast that breaks down the 1987 action sci-fi classic Predator 1 minute at a time. I'm your host, John, and with us today we have a returning guest, Jeff.
Hello.
And without us today, we are a man down. Brother, yeah, bummer. Brother Aaron is out on doctoring duty in Zimbabwe. Well, he's been there a while, but he's stick around there and keep going.
Bummer. We miss you, Aaron.
Yeah, I miss you, Aaron. He'll be back for minute 10.
Excellent.
And speaking of minutes, we are in minute 9 of Predator. Minute 9 begins with the view screen of the trailing chopper looking at the lead chopper through the night vision view. And minute 9 ends with Dutch looking away from his paperwork. So it doesn't sound like an exciting beginning or end, but this minute is packed full of character development, character interactions, and just overall learning about who this team is, who is in Dutch's squad. Jeff, you being the guest, what would you like to start off with?
Well, we got some famous lines in this minute, right?
Yeah, famous.
Yeah, like some of the most iconic Jesse Ventura stuff.
Yeah,
and we kind of round out. So this is sort of the second minute in this scene that takes place in the helicopter, where we're kind of panning around and learning about all the characters. And so we get kind of a shot of each character doing some different stuff. And we start off with Billy putting camouflage on his face using the mirror. He kind of goes with like the football player style camouflage, right? Like right under the eyes.
Yeah, he's totally going for like the the beat the sun glare look. And that's about it.
It's hot out in that jungle. You got to get the eye black under there.
Yeah, looking at Hawkins, it looks like he did the same thing. So maybe Billy is copying him, or he's, I don't know, maybe that's traditionally what, they both wear as their camouflage.
Yeah, you mentioned something about the mirror that I thought, like, does he need a mirror? Has he never done this before?
Right. Has he not done this enough times without looking? Or I don't know. It's a good point about
maybe he's like one of those face painters at the fair. He likes to do a different design every time. So he needs the mirror with him.
Yeah. Well, last time he went with like the Arnold look, and now he's going for, like you said, the football player look. I like that. Yeah. He mixes it up. Yeah. So we mentioned that before, talking about the different face paints, and I think Aaron was making the point last time too of just how independent and how varied this squad is, how it's just reminding us again and again it's not an official military squad. This is just a ragtag team of commandos who are coming together with their different styles, their different, tactics, their different preferences, and all the way down to how they put on their camouflage. Because in the same minute, we see Blaine handing around the tobacco to Poncho, and then Billy, both of them refusing, and Poncho is showing that kind of diagonal stripes like Arnold has.
Yeah, and they all refuse.
Yeah, they all refuse in the different ways. Mac just kind of doesn't do anything in the previous minute.
Yeah, he just kind of leans away.
Yeah, Poncho has something snappy to tell him, and Billy just kind of gives him the cold shoulder.
So you got some background on Billy. Did you talk about him yet on previous minutes?
No, these are the last two characters I haven't talked about. I've talked about all the other characters some probably a little more deeper than others, but these are more Xenopedia entries about our characters.
Do we do that now, or do we talk about Hawkins' dirty joke?
Well, yeah, I mean, we can talk about let's talk about the dirty joke first. You want to go for it? What is he trying to tell Billy? First off, before you tell the joke, I love how naturalistic this comes off with Hawkins trying to grab Billy's attention, where he's like, Billy, just kind of like yelling. I love it because it's the first indication to me that this music that is going on is actually playing in the background.
Right.
Like they have to yell over that and the chopper sound.
Yeah, they're actually playing it. It's not just on the soundtrack of the movie.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody else adjusts for that, but Shane Black
does. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I read that he ad-libbed those jokes.
Yeah, he ad-libbed those jokes because when you look in the script, and the script jokes are, I would say, a lot more kind of like playground jokes, just kind of innocuous, and these are much more going right for the juvenile.
Yeah, well, they're all vagina jokes.
Yeah, they are.
I do appreciate how he keeps on going back to those jokes, and he finally gets Billy to laugh later, which I'm sure you'll talk about later. But I think that's a funny little kind of through line in the movie, that he ad-libs these jokes and finally gets a laugh out of him later on.
Yeah, and I would say another through line, is he has to call his name twice for his attention. We see Dutch do the same thing later on, where he's like, it's a lot different circumstance, and Billy's looking up in the trees later on, feeling that feeling of being watched, and Dutch has to say his name a couple of times, and he grabs Billy, and he grabs him, makes him look at him, makes him look at Dutch. So it's kind of this idea, I guess, of Billy not being with the group mentally, in the present. He's very much trying to reach out or something like that with his feelings, with the force, I guess you could say.
Right. And I do love how he tries to explain the joke, right?
Mm-hmm.
He kind of says it twice.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like he reminds me of that guy that we all were friends with in college, that always was trying to I got the next joke for you, and everyone just right, and then he has to explain it at the end, and that's good stuff. So did you I listened to a little director's commentary over this minute. Yeah,
awesome.
And so McTiernan talks about how he wanted Shane Black for this part, even though it's a very small part, and Shane Black wasn't really an actor, right?
Right.
He's more of a screenwriter.
Yep.
But he just wanted to have a writer on the set for these types of situations, so he could, ad-lib these jokes or just give notes on the script and help with the writing aspect, and ended up putting him just in this bit part. John McTiernan says in the commentary that he just loves his work, and he loved that he said, quote, he has a smart-ass quality about him that he really liked having on set. So I thought that was pretty interesting that he just decided to, because Shane Black, was he real famous at this point? I know he was, this was right around when he was writing Lethal Weapon. I don't know.
Right after Lethal Weapon. Yeah, by the time they're filming this in 1986.
Yeah.
And released Predator in 1987, while Shane Black wrote the screenplay for Lethal Weapon in 1985. And by the time Predator is in development and then being released, Lethal Weapon, or Shane Black, already is having that reputation for being this action screenwriter.
Okay, so he was fairly well known in the business, but he probably didn't have many acting credits to his name.
No, not a lot of acting credits, but he had the big connection with Joel Silver, who produced the Lethal Weapon series, and Joel Silver produced Predator as well. So it was, again, another connection.
So another little Shane Black tidbit is that apparently he did not like the glasses that they put him in. But I guess John McTiernan wanted him to look as nerdy as possible, and so they found the nerdiest possible glasses to give him. But he really wanted to wear the more traditional army issue glasses, but they made him wear those nerd glasses, and he was upset about it apparently. But I guess John McTiernan won out because obviously that's what he ended up wearing.
Right. And I think Aaron mentioned this before, but one of the things I think Shane Black wanted to make his character stand out, because, like you're saying, every character has something that makes him stand out. He wanted to be wearing like a large red beret, and that just would not really. That's starting to go into like G.I. Joe territory. Like when you'd have like Flint with his huge beret in the field, like, oh, that wouldn't fly, right? And you have Sergeant Slaughter who's like wearing aviators and.
Yeah. Does he want to look like M. Bison from Street Fighter? Like...
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. That's hilarious. I had no idea.
Yeah. But you mentioned him talking to Billy not understanding the joke, or just either not understanding or wanting to give no reaction, or just not finding the joke funny.
Yeah. Do you think that his non-reaction was that he didn't think it was funny, or that he didn't understand the joke? I watched that minute several times and I couldn't quite pinpoint.
Yeah, I just think it's Billy being Billy. I think Billy is
yeah. Billy being Billy.
Billy being Billy. He's kind of like the Manny Ramirez of this. He's just kind of doing his own thing.
Right.
Just like if someone's going to be kind of the outcast, I would say Billy. I talked about Mac in a previous minute about being maybe psychologically isolated, but like Mac is still connected to Blaine, and they have that history together. But yeah, Billy, I don't know, Billy doesn't come across as having a lot of connections, just kind of doing his own thing. So I think it's just Billy being Billy, like, I ain't gonna laugh at that. Or maybe Billy is so in the zone, looking in the mirror, looking into, his own soul or something like that.
Right. He doesn't even pick it up. He's like, you're just noise in my background.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. And then for some reason he laughs later on. And I think, I don't know, and we'll talk about the laughing here in a minute, but when Blaine and Pancho have their exchange here on the chopper, I think that's Billy laughing. It's hard to tell. I don't know if that's supposed to be Billy or Jesse. I kind of picture them having a very similar laugh. I
know what you're talking about. I thought that was Jesse myself, but now that I think about it, I don't know for sure.
It's just such a hearty, manly laugh. I feel it could be a lot of those guys.
So what's your Xenopedia tell us about Billy?
Yeah, Xenopedia tells us that Billy's last name is Soul, so Billy's Soul. I think they're trying to hit it on the head. They're not trying to be dancing around any meanings.
Very, very subtle.
Very subtle. But they define him as an expert tracker, half Sioux, half Italian descent.
Ooh, half Sioux, half Italian.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the quote from Xenopedia is, when he was an infant, his people would tell stories of how a predator had once hunted their forefathers, although Billy was too young to remember these tales when he grew up. So they're going so deep into Xenopedia as to connect Billy with these older tales about the predator, which we don't see any of that with the team, but we definitely see that with Anna later on when they take her from the gorilla camp.
Right. That's interesting. That kind of explains sort of his sixth sense, right? Later on in the film, when he's the first one to really say that there's something out there and it's not human and we're all going to die.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Xenopedia also goes on to say he formed a friendship with Pancho once he joined Dutch's team in 1980. I would argue you see that one time in the movie, and it's the very line you just said where Pancho says, you ain't afraid of no man, and then he says, it ain't no man.
Right.
So they have that backstory, I guess, of Pancho knowing just how tough Billy is. But Xenopedia describes Billy as unstable, stoic, cold, aloof, brave, fearless. So he's almost like this lone warrior. And something interesting that Aaron was saying, I think it was Aaron. Was it Aaron or you? I think it was Aaron saying that at one point, like early on in the development of the script, Billy was meant to be the one-on-one versus the predator. Like all the other team was killed off. So even though Dutch is, the official leader of the team, Billy becomes the sole survivor of the team and taking on.
I get it. I see what you did there.
Yeah. Couldn't help
Billy's sole survivor.
Billy's sole survivor.
Oh, no. Dude, that could be, if he was the guy, that would be the title of the movie right there.
Yeah. Yep. And to take it a step further to connect him to the Predator, which again would maybe explain that kind of crazy what's that movie? Dreamcatcher kind of connection. Yeah, it says in the novelization, his powers go even further, and he is said to be actively psychic, able to access the memories of his ancestors and the ancient Mayans who used to live in the jungle and can actively sense the Predator's presence. So quite interesting there. Yeah, I don't know. Like the Mayan connection because weren't the Mayans on the Yucatan, and that's where they end up filming the second half of. And I know they end up filming the second half of the movie there, but I don't remember if it's the Mayans or the Aztecs who are located in that area. But maybe they're just really stretching.
Aren't you a humanities teacher? Don't you need to know these things?
Oh man, I really should. We'll fix that in post. I'll come voice over that.
That's funny. I think the Mayans were on the Yucatan Peninsula. I think that's right. Yeah.
And I'll give the last Xenopedia team member entry. It did not have a lot to say about Mac Elliott.
Mac,
I think they spend a lot of their entry time with Mac really in explaining Blaine's character, who's the close friend of Mac. So Mac fought with Blaine since Vietnam in the 101st Airborne Division. We talked about that last minute. But in the novelization, Mac is actually white, and both he and Blaine are quite racist towards Dylan and the Hispanic locals. So I think that that would start painting the movie in a much more darker light and just make it all sorts more uncomfortable versus having kind of the one line in this movie I feel where it feels uncomfortable in this minute versus like a general attitude. I think it plays a lot better have it with McTiernan making the choices he did for this movie.
Yeah. So we got Shane Black doing his joke. So then we should move on probably to Blaine with his tobacco, huh?
Yeah, back to Blaine with the tobacco. Just trying to put stuff in his
just trying to pawn it off to everybody, trying to get everyone hooked on that stuff. Not cool, Blaine. Not cool.
Not cool, Blaine. Yeah,
that's bad for you.
He goes to Pancho, and Pancho he gives this grin and just totally with all humor. Intact, says, "Get that stinking shit out of my face." And just aggressive, but like also like as it says in the script, they've done this a million times. They're very comfortable with each other. In fact, Pancho and Blaine were played by Chavez and Ventura. They're the two Vietnam vets on the set. So one of the things that Ventura talks a lot about is how well he and Chavez clicked right away and just throughout the movie and having their feedback here and then later on with Ain't Got Time to Bleed with that exchange. Yeah.
And I love how Blaine just turns away and really shows no reaction other than, oh, okay, he doesn't want any, like he's experienced this 100 times.
Blaine has the most neutral look on his face when he's doing this. He just kind of like okay, almost like a puppy looking for pets or something like that. Just like
right.
Come on. And then he turns aggressive, but again, it's with the same it's with the same humor that Chavez had him turn him down.
Right. So he offers everyone turns it down, and then we have the famous line with the homophobic slur.
Right. Nobody quotes the first part, but everybody quotes the second part. So
yeah. So I think that part's kind of interesting. So when you asked me to come on this podcast with you, I was super excited. Obviously, I love The Predator. I've seen it like a gazillion times. But when you did invite me on, I realized I really hadn't watched The Predator in probably over like 10 years.
Right.
And most of the times that I did watch it, back in my youth, it was like on cable TV, on, maybe HBO. And so I went back and watched it again, and I had totally forgotten about that line, or maybe when I had seen it on TV, it had been edited out.
Mm-hmm.
And it made me think of all the other like 80s movies that we watched as kids, where when you go back and watch them later in life, you realize there's a bunch of inappropriate stuff in them.
Oh yeah.
Like even these like PG or PG-13 movies have like homophobic slurs in them, and they do not age well.
Right.
I was sitting here. I made a list just in my head, like real quick, of all the different movies that this has happened to me too. Adventures in Babysitting. is rated PG-13 and like has like homophobic slurs in it. Teen Wolf does. Weird Science, Breakfast Club, 16 Candles has not aged
that's
well.
that aged out quickly.
Yeah. Monster Squad, which is like a PG-13 horror movie.
Well, written by Shane Black and Decker.
There you go. Yeah. But they all feature like homophobic slurs. It's like, and you realize how prevalent that was in the 80s. How horribly it has aged now. It's unfortunate. Like, these are movies that I loved as a kid, but I would have to think twice about showing my own kids for that reason, you know?
Yeah. No, I remember, I was an 80s kid too. And I remember like joking around with my friends like that. And I remember a specific time, like a specific moment in time when I think I was joking with a friend, and like the parent of the friend or the mom of the friend said, you know, like what, you know what that means? Like, do you know what you, like when you say that, what that means? And like it just turned on the light bulb, like, oh right, it's not that's not cool to say. Like I really shouldn't be saying that. And so I stopped at that point. But yeah, I remember totally joking with my friends like that and stuff, being gay and stuff like that. And,
well, that was all over these movies. It was just it was just an accepted, almost just a joke line, right? It wasn't taken very seriously. So in the context of that time period, especially because these are military guys and whatnot, and see them throwing around that word, but looking at it after the fact, it's unfortunate because the second half of that line is so iconic.
Oh yeah.
You know, like he says, this stuff will make you a goddamn sexual Tyrannosaurus. Like it's so out of the blue and like so nonsensical. Right. It's just fantastic. I love it so much. Like, what does that mean? Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
Except Jesse.
I'm curious. I when I listened to the director's commentary, he didn't mention anything about it. Do you know, was it, you've looked at the script a bunch. I have not. Was it in the original script, or was that an ad-libbed line? Do you know?
I have to say that when I've been reading the script for every minute we've been doing, it's very clear that like they're writing and editing the script as they were filming. Like, as put together the script was in the beginning, I guess, I have no idea what it originally looked like. I would love to see like a first draft. What we're looking at usually is like a fourth or fifth draft. And by this time, like, you know, they've seen dailies and they're like plugging things back in where you haven't even like the stick around line is written in there, when it's like, from what I know, like a lot of these things are like improv, or John McTiernan saying, yeah, we're going to go with that. And so it's really hard to tell. It's like reading something that's like just like some living document where people are adding on all the time. So yeah, the line itself is in the script.
Interesting. It is.
Yeah, it is in the script, but I don't know if it's the original or if it's something they just came up with and they said, that's so good, let's just stick it in there, like claim it as our own.
Right.
But the line reading it's weird, because when he says it in the film, he says, this stuff will make you a goddamn sexual Tyrannosaurus, just like me. And he has that great like Popeye look with the big smile.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And then Poncho instantly says, yeah, strap this on your sore ass, Blaine. And forever and ever, I was like, where did he come up with that line about sore ass? That comes from the script where it's enunciated out. It says Tyrannosaurus.
Oh, okay.
But in the script, there's no retort from Poncho. So it doesn't make sense. He says the sore ass, and then it's as if we are supposed to be hearing the sore ass comment or pronunciation in the movie. We don't at all, but we hear him say it as if he's saying sore ass, because what he says in the movie is plain old whatever, Tyrannosaurus.
Well, I have to tell you, I Googled sexual Tyrannosaurus.
Did you?
I was very nervous. I waited till I was home. I was not at work when I did it. I didn't know what I was going to find. I didn't know if I was going to go down some sort of like, you know, neckbeard rabbit hole of, you know, strange tentacle porn or something. I don't know.
Right.
But surprisingly, well, maybe not so surprisingly, but I was pleasantly surprised that what came back was mostly like T-shirts and mugs, and there is all sorts of stuff out there with Jesse Ventura's face on it that just says sexual Tyrannosaurus.
Yep.
But I learned a couple things that I thought were kind of interesting. So here's your sexual Tyrannosaurus informational minute. In the video game Borderlands, are you familiar with Borderlands?
I love the Borderlands video game.
Okay, so I have not played Borderlands, but I know it's beloved in the gaming community. Mm-hmm. So apparently there is a tier 5 skill in the character Salvador's brawn skill tree that's called sexual Tyrannosaurus.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. And in the same skill tree, tier 3 is called Ain't Got Time to Bleed.
Oh my god. And so, how do I not remember this from?
Yeah, I started digging into this, and like all these different tiers and skill levels are named after like action movies. So I wrote down a couple others that I really liked. There was one tier or skill level that was called Out of Bubblegum. Right? They Live. Yeah. I love They Live. Yeah. Rowdy Piper. There's another one called The Bus That Can't Slow Down.
Speed.
Speed, right? Yeah. And there's another one that's I'm Your Huckleberry.
Tombstone.
Just a little tombstone, yeah. But there were a ton of others. So whoever is doing all the writing for Borderlands is a big movie fan, in particular,
that's
like
awesome.
An action movie fan, yeah. Another tidbit, I found out that there is a brewery in Elk Grove, California, called Flatland Brewing, and they make an imperial stout that's called Sexual Tyrannosaurus. And I learned that Elk Grove is right outside of Sacramento, which is pretty close to where my sister lives. So I'm going to have her pick me up some Sexual Tyrannosaurus.
Oh my god!
Imperial stout.
We could be drinking that and talking Predator.
That's what I'm saying. We got to get some, and yeah, it'll be like Inception.
Sexual Tyrannosaurusception.
Inception. Right, there you go. All right, and that ends your Sexual Tyrannosaurus informational minute. That's all I got. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we just found the name for the minute. I love it. On minute, I think it's minute 5. I think I put the clip from the actual movie, the audio, where they're just saying like, "Dylan, you son of a bitch," and they're starting the handshake. I took the actual audio from the movie, so that's gonna have to go in here.
Ooh,
the second half of the quote, though. I'm not gonna, or I could just bleep it out. I've learned how to do the bleep function on Audacity.
Yeah, there you go.
Not that hard to use. Insert a tone.
Yeah. Well, don't worry, because even if you say that word, you can still get elected governor of Minnesota. So,
right.
You'll be all right.
It's interesting because like knowing and hearing from the real life Jesse Ventura, it's like it doesn't seem like anything he would actually say nowadays. Not just because he's a public figure, but just because knowing his beliefs and his values, he seems like someone very much on like the every person's side, the everyman's side.
Right. I would like to think that. I mean, especially in the 80s, like you probably wouldn't think twice about seeing that word in the script, and he probably just did it because that was his job, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
But right as Poncho tells him that, we go to the exterior of the chopper and you hear this just guttural echoing laugh, this and again, we don't know if that's Billy, we don't know if that's Blaine. You think it's Blaine.
I thought it was Blaine.
For some reason I think it's Billy. I don't know. I'll just have to compare those side by side again when he's laughing here and when he's laughing later. The problem when he's laughing later is that you don't catch a good portion of his laugh like I don't know what do I want to say, unaltered, because as soon as he starts laughing at as soon as he starts laughing at Hawkins' joke later, after they've like raised the gorilla village to the ground, it zooms out to the Predator vision. You catch everything, or you catch the rest of his laugh, like in the Predator speakers, and it's just all like distorted.
It's all distorted, so you don't really know. Right. Yeah.
But as you hear that laugh echoing, you also. Maybe I have that backwards. Yeah, you go to the exterior of the chopper as you hear the second part of the laugh. For the first part of the laugh reaction, you're seeing Mac shaving and just still looking really stoic.
Yeah, weird choice with the shaving. I still don't quite get.
Yeah, I think it's a weird thing with the focus, or maybe it's just meant to, again, just like Billy, show us how focused they are, where they're not going to be rattled by the banter. So if that's the case, then I have to go with what you're saying. It has to be Blaine laughing, not Billy. If he's not going to be laughing at Shane Black's hilarious jokes, then he's probably not laughing at this.
Yeah, and Mac's just back there just running the razor. I mean, it looks like he's pretty well clean shaven, and he's just sort of like continues to run it over his neck, you know? I don't know. I was very worried for Mac. I was, what if there's a little turbulence? What if the pilot takes a hard left? Like, he's right there on his neck. Like, you're good, man. You're smooth. Put down the razor.
I like to think that he doesn't even have blades in there. It's just practice for how good, just the motion might be coming down, kind of like when you're, I don't know, rocking back and forth.
It's just part of his, instead of putting on makeup, he's just running the razor. Yeah.
That reminds me of the airplane scene from Airplane where the woman's trying to put on the makeup in the bathroom with all the turbulence. She comes out just covered in makeup.
That would be a great alternative take with Mac with some lipstick.
Right.
It's getting all over his face. That's awesome.
Let's go down.
Could you steady it up? Trying to put my face on.
Trying to put my face on. That's so good.
Yeah, and so that brings us kind of to the end of that minute, right?
Yeah, not a lot else other than we're hopping into the team, how they interact with one another, how they show a camaraderie with each other, and just give each other a good old hard time. Just, yeah, you can offer that to me. You're not going to take it. You know I'm not going to take it. I'm going to throw a joke at you. You're going to laugh.
Yeah.
Right, we're buddies. We've been doing this for a while, and we're just so casual, chewing and shaving on the chopper, putting on our
lipstick.
Lipstick. Oh, that should have been at the camouflage. It's just everywhere.
That fits in with the red and green motif, right?
Right.
Do we even see Arnold in this minute?
We see him at the very end. All he's doing is what is he doing? It goes from Mac shaving, exterior of the chopper while they finish up the laugh. And the last few seconds are Arnold, I think, closing a map or something like that and looking away. And then the next minute is where they're starting to wrap things up, starting to wrap up their little chopper ride.
Right. Man, Arnold, this is a little aside, but after watching this movie again a couple times, like, Arnold is seriously in his prime in this movie, right? Like, he is... I don't know, just his physique and his attitude, his acting, like, I just feel like he's just right in his wheelhouse. Like, I don't know if this is the peak of his action movie career, but man, it's close. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I have enjoyed Arnold in another movie as much as I enjoy him in this movie. I don't know. I like him as an actor. Like, I like him in a lot of movies, but he's pretty great in this.
Yeah, people love citing like the Terminator movies, but I mean, he's playing a robot, and there's something to be said for not playing a robot, not like doing the thing you were just typecast as, in the original The Terminator, and here he's so driven, and he's so like mission specific, and he's, like you said, he has an attitude, and he has like this grim determination about him that you don't really see in other movies, where he breaks character quite a few times in other movies. Or in Terminator, he just plays the robot, and even then he breaks character sometimes. And
and he's that's exactly right. And he doesn't have a lot of dialogue, Yeah. And you actually kind of see that he's a pretty good actor in this movie.
Yeah.
I read too that he lost a little weight to be like, he lost like 25 pounds to look more like kind of slim, like an Army Ranger or whatnot, or a Special Forces guy might look.
Right.
And I actually think that kind of adds to his affect. Like, his face does seem a little bit thinner in this movie than some of his other movies.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Like, I'm a straight man, but Arnold's looking good in this movie.
My wife says that he looks like a troll, so she doesn't see what the appeal is, and that's all good. But he actually, if you watch
me and your
this
wife
movie,
are gonna have some words,
some words. But if you watch this movie, at least from the behind the scenes talk too, he even claims to have lost weight during the filming. So in the beginning scenes, he has a little more meat on his bone than in the later scenes, and I think that plays perfectly for this movie because
makes sense. Yeah,
right. He's going from like the more secure team to like surviving on his own, and if you're surviving on your own, right, you're not, you don't have that backup. You don't have like supplies. You don't have any kind of food supplies to keep you fed, and he avoided, like he said in the behind the scenes, he avoided food after a while due to people on the set becoming sick from the food. And even the water, trying to avoid a lot of like water.
Maybe he lost the weight from dysentery.
Yeah.
I mean, he is in Central America, right?
Yeah. Like Montezuma's Revenge was what we're calling it.
That'll take away the calories real quick.
Yeah. Cut down. Even the director, John McTiernan, said he lost a bunch of weight during the filming just due to, like, not having control over the food and the water. And,
wow.
Either avoid it or risk becoming super sick. Like, that's one of the running jokes among the cast when you're reading about it later on, is that like Billy would finish a scene like looking all grim and serious in the jungle, and then like they'd cut and he'd run to the bushes and just drop a load as fast as you can.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome to visualize.
The production stories on this film are pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's stuff it's stuff I guarantee you wouldn't have nowadays, just with things being so controlled, and with, I'm sure, like, unions playing such a huge part, and CGI being another thing. Because I was thinking about this the other day about you're not going to have like so much on-set, on-location things unless it's like an auteur like Christopher Nolan, who's like, I have to have it like this. You're not,
and who can just be given a giant budget to go do that.
Yeah, because usually the giant budgets now, you're paying for the actors and you're paying for a lot of computer work. You're not doing a lot of practicalness. Right, you're the Mission Impossible movie, or if you're like we said, like a Nolan or somebody like that.
Yeah. I love the practical effects in this movie. Like, I love that to get those predator effects, that I read that they didn't use actual night vision, that they kind of put a filter on the camera and then changed the coloring in post to make it look like night vision. And I don't know. I love older movies that were forced to be creative because they were constrained by their budget, or constrained by technology.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that produces creativity. I wish we'd see more of that today. Instead of just, we'll fall back on CGI. We'll just, render this in the computer later. Like, I love the creativity behind, like, no, we need to figure out a way to, smash this guy's head and make it look real or whatever,
Right. Right. Like scanners or I guess in this movie too, where they blow up Mac's head. Well, they kind of blow up Mac's head. It's a weird scene in itself, where later on you're like, oh wait, wasn't his head just shot through? And it's like, oh no, there's his head intact. So anyway, that's for a later minute.
Yeah. I'm getting off track. My bad.
No, that's what we do here, off track, and we deep dive into like the off tracks. Like, let me look about the Xenopedia about that. One last note, I was wanting a little bit to dive into this, just as a language arts teacher. Something we do a lot is, well, you're a math teacher, but I'm language arts and social studies. And one of the things you do as a language arts teacher is you try to have the students look deep into everything they read. And it drives students crazy. I love it so much. Like, what does it mean? As
a math student, I hate you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Like, think with your head and your heart. You're like, no, just the head.
All right, so what analyst do you have for me, teacher?
Okay, so I look at a team like this, and I think instantly, what are each of these characters symbolizing, or what does each character represent for the team? Okay. Because you have, 7 members if we include the shady Dylan and his machinations.
Yeah.
But even he plays a role in this team, and he represents something. And for some of them, it was easy for me to come up with. Like, for instance, Hawkins, I feel like represents the humor of the group.
Sure, he's like the jester, right?
Right, and
also he like dies first,
right?
Doesn't he? Yeah.
That's where I'm going with the symbolism too. Is that once you lose this person, what do you lose from the group? With Hawkins, once he goes, you're not having any more jokes. There's no more humor. Nobody's like saying.
Oh yeah. Okay, so I'm on board with this. I like this analysis. Okay.
All right. Yeah. See, I told you we're going somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. So that we don't hear any more jokes after that, right?
Yeah,
like that's the end. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just going to knock out the easy ones first. With Blaine, I feel like he represents a certain security, a certain toughness of the group, because he has this bravado. He has these just like, you can't take me kind of lines, and he also carries the biggest weapon that's ever been carried on film up to that point, in the M134 minigun.
Yeah.
And once he goes and his weapon is fully discharged by Mac in that same scene, I feel like there's a lot less security, a lot less toughness, a lot less brute force.
Right. He's the second one to go. Do I have that right?
He is the second one to go. Yeah.
Yeah. So you're right. So that's a good point. So you lose your humor, you lose your security blanket, or like the epitome of macho-ness is destroyed instantly.
Right.
Yeah. So the feeling of dread just starts to pour over you.
Right. Like, oh, if they can take down like this big dude, and
right.
And not even like take but a spatter and take but a flesh wound as a result.
Right. It's like walking into the prison yard and like punching the biggest guy there, right? Predator's like, oh, this is the big guy with the big gun. Fuck him. I'm going to take him out.
Well, no, it's more like walking in the prison yard and knocking down like the 4 biggest dudes.
Right. Yeah, there you go. Who happen to have a giant machine gun.
Right. They've had enough. They had enough. We need that bodyguard for them, not you.
Right.
There's a long stretch where nobody else is taken out, but then Mac goes next. And to me, Mac, I had to really stretch it here, but Mac to me represents mental sanity or mental fortitude. And Aaron was disagreeing with me a little bit, but like, he's sitting there shaving on the helicopter, and he's like obsessive about this to the point where later on he's making himself bleed because he's just like he just doesn't know how to really cope when the stress really goes down, or when the crap hits the fan.
Yeah.
And when he's totally blue screened, he's just reciting lyrics from the Chopper song, right? He's singing Long
Right.
Tall Sally to himself,
Right.
and having some fun. And I think he's representing mental sanity. Although I don't know, that was a hard one for me because he's not really representing, I don't feel like, for the group. I would definitely argue at least he represents that for himself and for Dylan, who goes right after him. What do you think about Mac? What can he represent? I had to really stretch for him and a couple others.
Yeah, no, that's interesting because he is kind of stoic. He's quiet. He doesn't react much in the helicopter. Mm-hmm. But then later on, isn't it Mac who kills the pig?
Yes, Mac kills the pig in the camp after Blaine dies. And they're trying to protect the body. So
he is also panicked, right? Panics to the point that he in a fit of panic and rage or just being scared beyond belief, kills this wild boar or whatnot. Mm-hmm. And so in a sense, I think he represents like that quiet dread, right? Ooh. Like you're scared to the point that you don't say anything, and then when the shit hits the fan, you overreact, and you're the one that's panicking in the room instead of having a level head. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Maybe. I don't know. English teacher, what do you think? How did I do with my Mac? He represents panic.
Yeah, panic. So what would be the opposite of panic? What I can't even think of that. Man, I should know this. Sarah, what's the opposite of panic?
Well, it'd be calm, like steadfast calm, right?
Okay, yeah. So he could represent the calm of the group, because once he loses it, right, it's going to be a while before things calm down. Basically, not since, because it goes from there to Dylan taken out, to Billy taken out, to Poncho taken out, to get to the chopper, to jump off the waterfall after the big slide, to hiding in the mud, and that's finally when it calms down. It's just like, that's nice. I'm going to put that on my paper for Film Studies 101. Great.
Excellent.
A-. Okay, so Dylan, I feel like he goes next, and I feel like he was really easy. I feel like he's totally the skeptic. He's the outsider. He doesn't believe, until he actually sees the predator. He has no belief that anything outside of just 2 or 3 guys tops is doing this. Just people who are a little bit better than them at surviving and fighting in the jungle. So he doesn't start to believe until he actually sees the eyes after the predator springs the net trap.
Right.
And then he believes.
He's in a position too where he doesn't want to admit that this much has gone wrong, right? He's the one that led these guys out there, mm-hmm. and he knows also that he led them out there on false pretenses.
Yeah.
And so he's holding on to every last straw that he can, that things are going to be okay, not only for the team that he's led out here, but for his own self.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah, and he sent out the first team. We don't even know when he sent Jim Hopper and the Green Berets, when he sent them out. We don't have any idea what he told them, if they knew they were trying to rescue, or if they're trying to infiltrate the guerrilla camp, or if they were under the pretense that they were trying to rescue a cabinet minister as well. Right. Before they befall their fate. So yeah, reluctance to believe, or just being stubborn.
Yeah, that's a good word for it. Kind of stubborn, kind of holding on to his beliefs in the most stubborn way possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And once he's gone, right, it's a quick sprint to the one-on-one. You go from Dylan, then next is Billy, and to me, I tied some of this to the Predator, or the Xenopedia, the Predator novelization, that the details they went into. I said Billy represents like a fear and an awareness, and that he was a believer, because
immediately,
in his backstory, it even ties the whole believer and the awareness more deeply. Like I said, like having a connection with the Predator and with the lore growing up.
Right.
Yeah, he faces his fear, right, when it's his time, stands his ground, but right, he goes down just like the rest of the first 4 team members who go down.
Yeah, he knows it from the beginning, mm-hmm. right? It's almost like he accepts his fate. Like, that line kind of stuck with me when he was like, it's not human and we're all going to die.
Yeah.
And then he just turns and walks away, and right. It was like, oh, okay.
He even says, "I'm scared," right?
He says he's scared. That's right.
Scared.
Yeah, that's what he says. I'm scared.
Oh, crap.
It's not
you ain't
human.
Scared, no man.
Yeah, this ain't no man. Yeah, and we're all gonna die. We're all gonna die.
I love his southern drawl there, because I think
he says it's so matter of fact, right?
Yep.
Yeah. He knows he accepts it before anyone else does.
Right. He even has the stereotypical like charm or whatever that we never see until he's about to take on the Predator with his machete out on the log.
Right. Right.
His last stand the ground moment. Poncho, I would say, was a little bit. This is another hard one for me. It's hard because he's like he comes off as like someone who's just there for the job. I said he represented innocence. That was a real big stretch for me, and curiosity. But at the same time, he's communicating to the group. Sometimes when things are happening, he's kind of being the, what would you call it, almost like the audience surrogate, until Arnold becomes that later on. But he's saying, right, things like, we hit nothing, and right, communicating that to us. So he's like you can't believe these things that are happening. I was like, I don't know. He comes across almost like a newbie in some ways. Just like, I don't know how else to explain it. And like, when he's having that exchange with Billy, he's just like, I can't believe it. Like, you have to be tough. Like, you're not afraid of anybody. Like, oh no. Like, it just comes off as just almost like this G. Willikers kind of performance at times. Just
yeah. I have to admit, I have Poncho is one character I don't. He's a character that I sometimes forgets in the movie.
Yeah, and he has He has the worst way to go out too. It's just, it's like takes a laser blast to the side of the head. And he just goes down. There's no like graphic. There's no.
And he doesn't seem to have any sort of, at least unless I'm forgetting, he doesn't seem to have any like good iconic lines or much interactions with the other characters. I like when we were prepping for this podcast, even I had to like remind myself, which one is Poncho again? Like, what? So you're on your own here a little bit in your analysis, is what I'm saying, because I don't have much to say about Poncho.
Yeah, or maybe he's just like representing, I don't know, like kind of like a follower of all people, because he's the one reacting to people, kind of like if you've ever been in a group and like there's the one like head person and the other person's like, yeah, like that's so funny, boss. Yeah, like tell him, yeah, it's funny. Yeah. It's like that's kind of what he's doing. He's like having the reactions of like he's reacting to Blaine, he's reacting to like what's not being hit when they're all mowing down the jungle later on in the firefight. He's reacting to Billy. He's reacting with Arnold before he goes up. Saying like I can make it. Like don't forget me. So like I said, maybe some innocence. I don't know. like you're saying, he's not the deepest of these characters, and he doesn't maybe hold up to as strong analysis as the other ones. And then lastly, Dutch is obviously the leader of the group, and I just pinned him as representing the survival, survival aspect of their survivor instinct. I don't know what you call it. Of the group, where he's not going down. He's the final girl of this film.
Right.
He's not going to be taken out by the other.
He's also the leader, right? He's constantly telling people what to do and where to go, and trying to bring calm to the situation whenever he can. Mm-hmm. I mean, Arnold's, he's just, like I said earlier, he's just so spot on in this movie. I just want to go hang out with him in the jungle.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. He just seems so right into what he's doing and so taking it seriously. I love it. I love it so much. It's my favorite performance of him. And I think I've seen all of them. I was just watching, what was I watching the other day? I was watching a couple Arnold movies. I was watching one called Aftermath, where he's playing this. Ooh,
I've never seen that one.
Yeah, it's based on a true story. So right away, I was just like, I don't know if I like this, and it's not my kind. It's recent, and he's playing like this true. He's playing like a real person, or he's based on a story of a real person who lost their family in like a plane accident, and then like it's him coping with that loss. So it's very much serious, toned down, not jokey.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's just, this is a hard one. It's like, it's a real downer to watch, It's not like, you're not watching for like the entertainment purpose, but you're watching for his acting chops. And I think they're really good in that one, just how serious and, how heavy the weight he's carrying of his family. But then I watched, Killing Gunter, and I thought he was awesome in that. I totally recommend that one.
Really? I haven't seen that one.
Yeah. He shows up in the last 30 minutes, and like spoiler alert, like the movie plays kind of like Predator in that regard, almost like reverse style, because he's like this well-known yet mysterious assassin hitman. Taron Killian.
That's one of his later movies, right? Like after Governor.
Yeah, this was like
movies.
2 or 3 years ago.
Right. Yeah, I have not watched that one. Did you ever watch Last Man Standing, which was like kind of his comeback movie after being governor?
The Last Stand, I think.
The Last Stand. Thank you. Yeah, The Last
Johnny
Stand.
Knoxville. Yeah. I like that one. That was.
I thought it was pretty good. Yeah. I liked it. I feel like it's a little underrated. Like the final action sequence is pretty great.
Yeah. And they have the big guns, and they have a good big bad. Oh, he's the one who's grinding up Steve Buscemi and whatchamacallit, Fargo.
Oh, yeah.
When he's putting him in the wood chipper there.
Yeah, when he's putting him in the wood chipper. Yeah. I liked it. I hadn't seen it. I heard it on kind of I was listening to a different podcast that was talking about sort of like underrated action movies.
Yes, I was listening to that one like last week too. F this movie.
Yeah.
With Adam Risky. Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, it was great. It was so good. And they recommended that one. I was like, I haven't seen that one. So I'm looking at the cast list, and I still don't know who it is.
Oh, Peter Stormare. That's who it is. Peter Stormare. You would know him if you saw him.
Okay. His little picture is super small. Okay, there we go.
He was Fargo. And
there he is. Yeah, he's in Fargo. Yeah, no, that one was fun. It was fun. It was, it's like it's got all my favorite qualities of an action movie. It's a quick 90 minutes. Yeah. It starts off with some action sequences. It's got a quick middle, and then it finishes with a bang. And Arnold's pretty great in it. Like he's he's at the point in his career where he knows who he is, right? He knows that he's not like the same type of action star he was. Like he's not going to be running around breaking walls with his fists anymore.
Right.
But he he can still like take a gun and fire his way through a set piece in a great action sequence. So yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I recommend it.
Yeah, if you watch Killing Gunter, like if honestly, I think I watched the first hour or so on mute as I was like listening to something else or doing something else. But then as soon as he shows up, I unmute it, and it's really entertaining the character he's playing, because he's playing like this really pompous hitman who's like the whole premise is like Taran Killen is like he's part of like this team he puts together, and he's trying to take down Arnold's character Gunter, this world famous hitman, for I forget what reason, like a reason not even important. But as they come like closer and closer, like Gunter keeps killing off like this team of assassins, and like it's very like Predator-like, except like they're going for their target from the beginning, and then finally you come face to face with Gunter. Right, Gunter's making his own documentary too. He's like, hey, I heard about these guys trying to take me down, so I'm gonna have my own show going. And we're like, awesome. We're making our, so they have like the documentary crews like looking at each other.
Look, guys, so I have my own cameras.
Yeah, my own cameras. I'm doing my own show. It just his like, he's played such a good version of himself. Just totally proud and loud and like cocky to the hilt. Oh, it's so good. I recommend it.
All right, I'm checking it out.
Yeah, and it's on Amazon Prime. So.
Oh, perfect. Okay, nice. All right, so do we have anything else, Mr. Zabriskie?
Mr. Glover. I guess as far as the minute goes, I just wanted to briefly touch on, camera technique. It's something I want to talk much more about in this movie that I've never really paid much attention to. But when I was looking at Last Minute, or even just thinking about Last Minute, if you remember, at one point, Poncho throws some tape at Hawkins. Hawkins catches it.
Yeah.
McTiernan uses what's called a whip pan. You might know the term. It's where the camera moves just side to side, like from basically like one shot, or not one shot, but it's looking at something and it whips to something else really fast to the side.
Right.
And I think it's a great use of it. It shows good motion. It also, you can edit around it really easily. I think it's a really good technique for showing, like Hawkins.
It's supposed to show off his reflexes, right? Yeah, because the motion makes it feel very fast, and then when it stops, you see the tape in his hand, so it gives the impression the tape was moving very fast.
Yeah, and we see this technique, and the reason I'm bringing that up is because McTiernan is just, as I'm watching this movie and other movies, I'm saying just how good he is at bringing things back around, at like mentioning something in the beginning and then echoing it in a different way. So one of my favorite lines from the movie, and most people's favorite lines, is when Arnold hucks the 20-pound machete into the guy behind him at the gorilla camp, and that's all whip pan right there too. So that's why I bring that up, because it reminds me of one of my favorite scenes where he funks him and he says, "Stick around."
Yeah. Stick around.
Stick around.
So I kept on watching the movie with the director's commentary on for a little while.
Oh, nice.
And it was pretty interesting because he does talk a lot about camera techniques and how he was trying to be creative, and shooting on location allowed him to do lots of interesting shots.
Right.
Because he wasn't confined to a set piece or a studio or whatnot. Mm-hmm. But he said that also when they got to the scene at the camp where all the whole action scene happens and all the explosions and whatnot, he had a secondary crew come in who was doing a lot of the shooting that day. And so if you watch that scene, there's a lot of the shots in that scene are static.
Yeah.
Meaning the camera's just sitting there and capturing what's happening, or maybe just a very, basic, move or pan. Mm-hmm. And he was, in the commentary, he talked about being kind of upset about this, how he wished that he could have done some more interesting shots or interesting camera work in that scene. But it's something to talk about later when you guys get to that actual scene. But yeah, I recommend listening to the commentary over that. I found that kind of interesting.
Okay. Yeah, that was this guy who did all these stunts for A-Team, Craig Baxley. He did a lot of stunt work for these action TV shows like A-Team, Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah.
Or Dukes of Hazzard, and Predator, along with the second unit directing. There's a few good things in the the village shootout that I like.
Oh, I love that whole scene. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah. And there's certain standalone things, but there are certain like, oh, you're just firing people off springboards. Like that's so not fitting into the rest of this movie. Like you don't
love
see
that. I love that.
Yeah, it's good for that, for just showing like how A-team this team really is. Like,
right.
Blowing everybody away and just doing the generic like, I'm gonna huck a grenade.
And those guys fly like 12 feet in the air.
So great. And in fact, and there's one goof I'll talk about later, but there is like the same gorilla who you see in one scene. He's mowed down and he pops right back up in the very next shot. It's like, you can't kill this guy. He's wearing the same thing with the red scarf.
This guy's the Predator. What that's the movie. It's this guy.
That's the movie. Yeah. We need a tangent movie where it's played from his perspective.
There's some alternate cut of this movie where in the background of every shot is that guy like peeking around a bush. Still not dead.
Still not dead. You blowing me up, you shot me, you stabbed me. I don't think it was a stick around guy, but it might as well have been.
Oh, that's great.
For reviewing purposes. Okay, so I think we'll end on a couple things. First off, I just had a couple of questions left to ask you. We mentioned that your favorite line was probably "stick around," right?
Or sexual Tyrannosaurus.
Or sexual Tyrannosaurus, yeah.
Yeah, it's just such nonsense. I don't even know what it means. It cracks me up every time.
Just paints a picture, and you don't have to Google it to paint a picture.
Don't Google it, boys and girls. Yeah,
not at school. But did I ask you about your favorite character? Do you have a favorite character?
Man, is it a cop out to say Arnold?
Nope.
Oh man, because so I have sort of a double cop out. Like,
okay.
So Arnold is kind of my favorite character, which is kind of a lame thing to say. But as I've been saying through this podcast, apparently I'm just in love with Arnold Schwarzenegger in this movie. He's my favorite. But also, the Predator might be one of my favorite characters.
Yeah.
You know, like he's such a unique villain when you think about. I mean, the Predator itself is such a simple story, but it's kind of unique. Like it's an action film. It's a film about isolation, survival, a little bit of revenge, and the alien, the Predator we had never seen anything like that before when this movie came out, right? Like we've had movies with aliens, we've had movies with monsters, whatever, but nothing quite like this particular alien character. Because you kind of like the alien, the Predator has a little bit of a personality, right?
Yep.
Like the Predator's smart. He's tough. He's driven. He has a goal in mind. He's also willing to sacrifice himself, right? He's willing to blow himself up if needed. So yeah, I don't know. I've just always found the Predator to be like one of the great cinematic villains, and so I love him as a character.
Oh, totally. Yeah, because. I mean, he comes just from his technology and his dress alone. You can tell, he's coming from like a larger group of like beings. So he has some kind of like culture, some society he's coming from. Like he might even, he probably has a name. Like we don't even, never think about that. But like, he has a species, Yautja. But if you read the lore, like they all have names.
Right. Well, if this podcast continues on and you decide to keep on going, you have to have me back for Predator 2, because that's.
Oh my God.
Oh boy, that's one of my. I know it's not a great movie, but I love it so much. I love it so much.
Yeah, it definitely goes the direction of like what RoboCop 2 or Gremlins 2, where it's like,
right.
Yeah, we know it's a little bit silly. Like now that the cat's out in the bag and you see the Predator, you remove that mystery about who the character is.
But no, I mean Danny Glover in those pleated pants.
He's such a BA mother effer in that movie too. It's great.
I love it.
Kills a predator, man. Kills a city hunter.
Gary Busey, Bill Paxton, and they're all just yelling. They all just yell at each other the whole movie. They're just they scream all their lines at each other. It's amazing.
Yeah, they hired the right people. You have, like you said, Gary Busey and the Bill Paxton. They have no problem just yelling and screaming at.
I love Predator 2, and that same podcast we were talking about, F This Movie, recently did a Predator 2 episode.
Yes,
I could not have been more excited, and I was super excited. I was afraid that they might shit on the movie the whole time, but they didn't, and I was so happy.
Oh my god, that was so good with Risky doing the Predator like whiny high pitched voice.
Yes.
Cars. Jeez,
that's a good one. I'll have to that one might get a re-listen. I enjoyed that one.
Do you have a least favorite scene?
A least favorite scene? Is it silly to say the end credits?
That one's a cop out. Sorry.
That's a cop out.
The end.
Gosh, I don't know if that's a really hard question. I don't know if I have a least favorite scene. I'm drawing a blank, Mr. Zabriskie.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Wow, it speaks to the quality of the movie. If you can't think of I really would skip over this because you can't.
I really can't think of something that I would like take out if I could. I know you mentioned a couple lines you thought were cheesy, and I don't know. I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
No, no problem. The only line I think is cheesy is where I think I mentioned this. I started to set this up before, but Predator and Arnold are finally going at it hand to hand. Arnold swings a log, and Predator breaks it with his forearm or his gauntlet or something like that. And Arnold looks at it and just has this wah wah, and he says, "Bad idea," and then Predator just totally swipes him to the side, and between
I forgot about that.
Yeah, it's almost going I don't know, Muppet movie or something like that.
Right,
just
right.
Oh, ridiculous! Come on, Arnold. He just, I don't know. I feel like that he was contractually.
Well, it's like in Predator.
Requesting that.
It's like in Predator 2 when they zoom in on the Predator's face and he does the and he's, and it's like, oh, come on. That's a little out of place. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for Predator 2, not so much, but I mean, I think this movie, once it's established that sense of dread for those last 30 minutes,
right.
You don't need any.
You don't need that.
No jokes. And seriously, from Billy laughing at Hawkins' joke, the biggest laugh I think the people have is the breath of relief when Mac kills the pig, and they're all laughing at that. But it quickly turns because then they're oh my gosh, Predator stole the body, and
right.
It's on to the next thing, setting up the next trap. That's probably my least favorite line. I couldn't think if I have a least favorite scene other than bits and pieces of the kind of campy gorilla attack scene where there's a couple scenes where Hawkins is spraying his MP5 and Dylan spraying his MP5, just kind of is so cliche action movie Chuck Norris just fanning the whole area blindly.
Right. It is one of those things you have to suspend your belief a little bit, right? Because they clearly just use up all their ammo, or just 100 times the ammo that would be necessary to do that. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean that's for the gorilla scene. I mean, if we're talking about the actual mode jungle,
and then it's both on top of one another. How are they carrying around all these bullets?
Right.
Is there a donkey pulling a trailer behind them? Just boxes.
Just boxes.
Yeah.
Second last question. Do you have any helicopter experience? You ever been on a chopper?
I have never been on a chopper.
Okay, not even in Hawaii on one of those kind of let's go over the crater.
No, I haven't. I've been twice. I've been in small Cessna airplanes. Mm-hmm. So I have a friend who is a pilot in the Air Force, and when we went to college together before he went in the Air Force, but in college he had his pilot's license, and he took me up in a little 2-seater Cessna. Nice. This was up in Bellingham, Washington, and took me up over the San Juan Islands. It was really awesome. And at one point he let go of the controls and let me control the plane for about 20 seconds.
Nice.
Which was terrifying and awesome. And so now I can say I've flown a plane.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, and then a second time I was in a small seaplane that took me around Lake Chelan when I was up there vacationing eastern Washington there. But no, I've never been in a helicopter, not even flying over a crater in Hawaii. Okay. Yeah, have you? Do you have Choppa experience?
Choppa experience. Yeah, growing up in Tennessee, I remember we went on one of those like small helicopter rides. I think they probably took us over the Appalachians or something like that. I was too little to remember that, but on our honeymoon, yeah, Sarah and I took a choppa tour over, I think it was Maui, where they fly over the island and you're looking down on the coast and seeing all the cool geography. But
while you guys were flying around, did you just pull out some chewing tobacco? And
just
offer it to everybody.
Stuff and make a goddamn sexual Tyrannosaurus.
And then make some homophobic slurs and then just start shaving.
Start shaving, start putting on the eye black. Heck yeah, they just kick me off so fast. It's crazy.
Well, that's cool. I would like to be in a choppa someday.
Yeah. It was fun. It was not as rough and tumble as anything we see here. Really contained. And
I do love the exterior shots of them flying the helicopter around the jungle. Those are pretty cool.
Yeah, I think as low as they are, I think it gives a real good sense of like the seriousness of what the mission is. Flying that low for strategic purposes, for low, to keep visibility down for anybody trying to look for choppers. I don't know if like flying below radar is a thing at that altitude. Thinking about it now, I should be like, I should like research like, what would like the radar capabilities of the guerrilla forces be in that area, something like that. But,
right.
Yeah, it gives a sense of like where they are. It gives a sense of, like I said, the seriousness of their mission, even though they're all joking around. I think the last question I had was any similar movies to this that you would recommend, like anything maybe you're inspired by to like when you're watching this, right? I can't wait to watch this next.
Oh, yeah. Oh boy. Okay. So this, watching Predator just makes me think of like 80s action movies, right?
Right.
It just puts me in that zone of when I was like 12 years old and going to the video store and renting these great like buddy action movies or whatnot. So like if I'm going to like double bill Predator with something, it's going to be probably my first choice. This might be super obvious, but it'd probably be RoboCop.
Oh, I was just thinking RoboCop.
Oh, dude.
Oh, my God.
Maybe you shouldn't do Predator 2 and we should just do RoboCop after this movie because I absolutely love RoboCop. Predator and RoboCop and a couple others are probably my favorite. I was going to say 80s action movies, but just action movies in general.
Yeah.
So RoboCop, Tango and Cash is a great one for me. Yeah, that's a little more light, a little sillier, but I love it. I'm gonna go like a couple John Carpenter's. They Live is great. We mentioned that earlier. Big Trouble in Little China, I feel like has a great 80s tone that's kind of fits right in there with the Predator.
Yeah. Yeah,
so that's what I got right off the top of my head. Those would be my double. Those are probably kind of obvious pairings, but that's what comes to mind.
No, I love that. Yeah, I like how you're going with like, something lighter like RoboCop.
yeah, you got, Predator does get, it's you might watch it, this many years later and maybe feel like it's going to be a little campy, but I don't think Predator is. Like I think it holds up as just a pretty good, solid action movie. And so to try to pair that with something a little lighter, like RoboCop has its serious moments and it has its uber violent moments, like almost over the top violent moments, but it's also riddled with that Paul Verhoeven satire that's just fantastic. I love that. He did the same thing in Starship Troopers, another one of my favorite action movies. So I think that would make a good pairing.
No, yeah, because this movie will give you the total downer ending where you're thinking like, well, I just watched a horror movie, kind of like the Terminator. It's like, oh, I just watched a horror movie. Like we just like had this other monster coming after the final survivor. And like it's quite what they call the Pyrrhic victory, where you lose like all your forces in defeating the one foe.
Right.
Like, I need something where like the good guys live at the end. Like give me some Tango and Cash. Like give me,
yeah, I need some Tango and Cash in that steamy prison to pull me out of this. So steamy. Why is it so steamy down there?
Steamy. And that Jack Palance.
Oh,
right?
Jack Palance, just every line is like, everything he says is
it's gonna chew on this a little longer.
Just enunciates every word. Oh, Tango and Cash. Oh my God, I love it so much. I'm going to go watch Tango and Cash after this. I'll see you guys later.
No, I'd recommend. I would totally recommend. Like I said, Hunt for Red October.
That is one I have not seen in a long time. I know it's a great one. I just have not watched it in forever.
It's a great one because, like, right, the action's there, the cool characters are there, like Sean Connery and Scott Glenn. Like you probably forgot about Scott Glenn, but he's just awesome as the captain of the U.S. sub.
I did forget about Scott Glenn.
Just the way he basically commandeers Red October while when Sean Connery is wounded by the traitorous cook who Alec Baldwin has to go after. But like he takes charge and like things are amped up as like they're dodging a torpedo as Alec Baldwin is chasing down the cook in like the nuclear silo room.
Right.
In the submarine, so I would totally recommend that too. It has that benefit of like that tense action, but also that really good Tom Clancy technical jargon flying at you all the time with like yelling out sub commands, and you're going like, whoa, like what, like they know exactly what to do with that set of commands and numbers, and like that's going to produce like this awesome result. And,
right.
They're even like walking Jack Ryan through it as like the audience surrogate for like what's happening all the time.
Yeah.
So well done. Man,
okay, I got to put that on my list. That'll be a watch.
I'd recommend that. Do you want to talk about where people could find you online? I mean, I don't.
Well, you can follow me. What am I on Twitter? You can follow me at CarlHungus314. That's the true story. Yeah. That's about it. That's my. That is a reference, a Big Lebowski reference.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can't remember if I'm Carl Hungus 314 or Carl Hungus _ Oh, I just looked myself up. I'm at Carl _ Hungus 314. My name is Jeff Glover. You can follow me for very few Twitter updates, as I very rarely use Twitter.
Yeah. Well, hey, we can find you on the Predator Minute for sure, too.
Yeah.
Hey, there you go.
Other than that, I'm just hanging out in my garage, podcasting with a glass of red.
Glass of red. If you out there, audience, has any deep analysis about the characters in Predator, or you have some idea about what a sexual Tyrannosaurus could be, feel free to email us at predatorminute@gmail.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter at Predator Minute. We're on all sorts of podcatcher services, iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, TuneIn, and then, of course, like all the other little ones that feed off of those feeds. And maybe you'll luck out and find us on there, too. We are hosted on SoundCloud at Predator_Minute Podcast. Wait, www.soundcloud.com/Predator_Minute_Podcast. Go there.
Carl _Hungus 314.
At Carl _Hungus 314. 314, good buddy. Okay, and I think we're going to leave it there for Predator Minute. This has been John.
And I'm Jeff Glover.
And until next time,
stick around.